Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode of Omnifactory. Last time we sent our first tier 6 microminer, which gave us access to dragon eggs. And then with the dragon eggs we made draconic stem cells. And remember, this was quite a slow recipe, so I've been letting this run. I think it's actually run through all the dragon eggs we had. We had half a stack from the one microminer we sent. And this has made our stem cells. And then I've set up a chemical reactor here to turn multi-layer fiber reinforced boards along with the stem cells and the sterilized growth medium we made last time into these wetware circuit boards, which should be a quest. These wetware boards allow us to get the final tier 6 circuits, as well as these neural processing units, which are used in the super high tier crafts for LUV and the tiers 9 and 10 microminers, as well as the last tier 7 circuits. And we also got the ZPM assembling machine, which gives us access to the 4th and final tier 6 circuits. Eventually we will probably passive these ones, but for now I think I'll just set it up for on demand, just to give us a cheaper option for tier 6s. So I've went ahead and set up a ZPM line next to the LUV one, and we're just going to stick an interface next to this for now. So with this interface we can also add the recipes for the quantum circuit, the crystal circuit, and also the wetware. This final tier 5 also takes these crystal system on chips, which we don't have yet. We're making the crystal CPUs for the tier 5s, but for the tier 6 we need to precision laser engraver some of these. So I'm going to make a precision laser engraver at LUV tier just for this. And I think I'll put it next to this one, and we can now remove this assembling machine since we don't really need this anymore. This was for the previous tier of circuits, and I was also making the crystals in here, but we'll just make them all on that one over there. I also noticed for these wetware circuits we're going to need Naquada alloy wires. I thought this was just regular Naquada, but it's actually an alloy of osmium, or osmiridium actually, and Naquada ingots. And this is a LUV blast furnace recipe, and I think this has to be superconducting coils. Oh no, we can do it with regular Naquada coil blocks, so I think I'll add a blast furnace for this as well. Alright, and we're in business. 25 seconds, that's alright. And there's the first two pieces finished. I don't know if this is a quest or not, but either way we'll set the storage monitor. Also in between episodes I added this extra processing array to coat cable. Originally I was sharing it with this one here, and it was getting a bit messy. So actually I still have to rename this. Yeah, so I went and reorganized all of the interfaces and renamed them appropriately with the circuits I've modified and things like that. I moved some fluids around in that as well. So yeah, I just generally cleaned up these interfaces and the processing arrays. So now let's try and request our first wetware circuit. Oops, wrong fluid. I put in tin, as I just assumed it was tin like any other recipe, but this is actually sterilized growth medium. So it turns out we will actually need that other assembly machine for these other two circuits. So I'm going to switch these out, or I'm going to move these patterns to the other assembly machine again. Okay, I fixed the patterns, and there's our wetware circuits. That should also be a quest. Alright, so the next quest is for the final tier 7 circuits. I don't think we can make these yet. These are going to require franken zombies, and for that we have to automate the soul binder. And in fact, you know what, let's actually just do that. Let's tackle this just now. So we need to automate franken zombies. I want to do this passively. So for that we need zombie soul vials. This we can just craft easily. And then we need Z logic controllers, which is done in the Slice and Splice. And it's just some silicon. Well, we're going to use Naquada doped wafers, zombie heads, redstone, solarium. And then we'll need some way of getting tools to this as well. I haven't quite made up my mind which tools I want to use yet. But let's first make these machines. Okay, so I've extended our platform out a bit more, and we're going to just put it in this square here. So let's extend power along. I also noticed that we're going to need some sentient enders as well for the tier 8s, and this is also done in the soul binder and the slice and splice. While we're at it, we might as well set up both of them for the Z logic controller and the ender resonator. So as part of this process we're going to need a lot of soul vials, which require fused quartz, and I thought I would just passive this, so I've just set up a quick alloy smelter here to import nether quartz, and then that gets put into a drawer. We're just going to let this fill up to 2000 quartz. And I suppose we're also going to need a lot of solarium as well, so we might as well just passive this while we're at it. So for that we need soul sand, so I'll set up a crafter with hellish matter and sand just to passive this. And then I'll also put in another alloy smelter for solarium. So let me actually just do that as well. Okay, so now we have soul sand, fused quartz and solarium being automated here. and I've just moved the storage bus from this and put a drawer controller here to expose it all to our ME network. So now we can add a crafter for soul vials, and then we'll need one for zombies and witch. Okay, so now I've added a drawer on top here to store our soul vials, and then I've added 2 more crafters, one for zombie soul vials and one for witch. We now have to output these into 2 separate soul binders. So I think we can lay it out something like this, I believe anyway. So yeah, the middle step's going to be the soul binder step, which is going to be for this and the franken zombie. But we need to get this, we still have to get the Z logic controller and also the resonant ender, which is in the slice and splice. So I've set 2 of those up here, and then I need to hook up interfaces for these. I think we'll probably have to use 2 separate interfaces for this. We'll do something like that, and then we'll item conduit in these. Okay, so this puts our items in the soul binder, or sorry, the slice and splice, and then we'll have to output these into the soul binder itself, so we can just have item conduits here, and that will output the result into this one. We're going to need some capacitors, so I made the recipe for these double compressed octadic RF capacitors. I think I'll actually need 2 more as well. But yeah, these things are fairly cheap at this point, but it basically just compresses a lot of the lower tier circuit, or the lower tier capacitors. So it's 600 per double compressed. So we'll put one of those in each one. We also have to figure out this axe and shears situation. And I noticed we can get these flux infused tools which use RF rather than durability, but they will never break. And once they run out of RF, I believe they still function for the purposes of this machine. So to make the axe, we're going to need some of the ingots, which is fluxed electrum blend. And this is electrum, signalum, lumium, and mana dust. So all things we have, we just have to set up a crafter for it. And I think this fluxed electrum is also used later on for like exotic materials. I think we might need the gears for something. Maybe the plates as well. It's one of these things. Oh yeah, for these flux titanium heavy plating. So if we're going to make one, we might as well just fully automate this. It's also a blast furnace recipe as well, so we'll have to set up a blast furnace for this. I also realised that we need electrum dust for this. We're only getting the ingots passively. So I've just quickly added a macerator onto the end of our passive line here. And just connected to this drawer network. And then I've set up the blast furnace as well. I'm just going to put a crafter on top of the input hat. Wait, hold on. Oh, here we are. Yeah, I'm going to put a crafter on top here with the fluxed electrum blend recipe. And then I'll add each of these dusts to this interface. And that's going to get instantly pulled into the input hatch back there. And then I just have to hook up the output as well. Okay, it's all set up now. We've got our storage monitor set and a level emitter. And I also ended up putting a level emitter on this mechanical crafter, since I couldn't really fill the output bus, I mean. And so just to stop this instantly filling up with dust, in fact I think I'll set the threshold even lower. This is giving us our fluxed electrum, so let's try and make those tools now. So we need an axe, which we need flux crystals for this as well. I guess we'll need a lot of these as well, so we might as well just passive these while we're at it as well. Man, we're getting so sidetracked. Okay, so let's get an autoclave then for diamonds and molten redstone. Wait a second, I realised, why don't I just use a limited item filter on the insert of this input bus and move the mechanical craft over? That's going to give me way more control about how much I actually buffer here. So now we're only buffering 1 stack. So yeah, less waste like that. Anyway, yeah, let's set up this autoclave. And we'll do it at EV. Alright, so there's our flux crystal automated. I've already put a downgrade in this. I'm just going to buffer 1 stack. It's easy enough to take this out and increase our buffer. But I'm fairly confident this isn't going to be any sort of bottleneck down the road. So yeah, that's those passived. Let's now get our tools and finish the slice and splice. So there's 2 axes. And there's the wrench. I think these can work in the slice and splice. I'm also going to make an extra one for myself. So now, hopefully this works. Oh yeah, it does go in that slot. And yeah, this starts making our Z logic controllers, and these will get put in here. We need to fill these with EXP, obviously. And we can do the same for the other one. And our capacitors probably are done at this point. Yep, so we'll add those. So now we have to get EXP in here. I think we can just add a fluid interface to this then. We put a fluid interface here, and then just conduits on top. or no, we'll run the conduits all in the same block. And once we hook this up to AE2, this is now receiving our EXP and making our franken zombies. Oh, and it also actually gives us back the soul vials, so we should probably recycle those back to here. Alright, yeah, that was probably a waste to set up this auto crafting for soul vials. Whoops. Yeah, I've now taken the soul vials out of this, and this is just sending the soul vials back to the crafters to be reused. So now we need an output for this, and we have to decide how much we want to buffer of this as well. So obviously it's going to be used in these circuits, but and it is 8 at a time per circuit, so maybe let's just do, I don't know, maybe let's just do one drawer of each of the sentient enders and the franken zombies. They're not that expensive anyway. Alright, so I've added a drawer controller with some drawers and a storage bus on the back. And so yeah, that's us now getting passive sentient enders and franken zombies. And with that we can include recipes for wetware processors. And then what was the other one again? Was it the crystals? Alright, it was the tier 8s, but we can't quite make those yet since we need europium. So that'll be a little bit more infrastructure. I think actually for this we need fusion reactor. Oh yeah, we need the fusion reactor for this, so that's a little ways off. So I've encoded the recipe here for the third and final tier 7s. Let's try and request some of these. Hopefully it goes off without any issue. I realised we also have to add sterilised growth medium, so we can just add an extra fluid interface to this. And hook this up. It should start crafting now. Oh yeah, awesome. That's those finished. That should also be a quest. It is. And with that we can also remove the recipes for the quantum processor mainframe and the crystal processor array. I'm also going to go through and update all the relevant recipes that require updates in this circuit upgrade assembler. Alright, so it's now the next day. I've actually been playing a bit, trying to clean things up. I added that laser engraver to make the crystal SOCs, so now we're getting those passively. And I've also set up passive tier 4 and 5 circuits using the final tier recipe. This did involve making 2 more ZPM assembling machines, which was quite expensive. I don't actually know if this was worth doing, but it's done now, so basically because these assembly machines take the inefficient circuit recipes, like they take the mainframes, and you can't use the final tier 5s for these either. It is quite expensive, but anyway, this takes in platinum to make platinum wire, fine platinum wire, and then we've got it's the same as what is over there for the tier 3s. Then we have multi-layer boards, advanced system on chips, and then molten tin. That's all been inserted here and then put into the drawer. And it's more or less the exact same for the tier 5s, except this uses fine niobium titanium wire, as well as the new crystal SOCs. So yeah, that's those now on passive. We don't have to worry about on-demand crafting of those anymore. And I've also set up the frame for another processing array. I want this to be for the heavy plating. Basically, yeah, all this heavy plating is for each tier of microminer. And these are really slow recipes, especially as you get higher tier. Like, yeah, 10 seconds each, and you need a decent amount of these per microminer. So if you're sending like 16, half a stack, whatever, of the microminers, you need like a lot of these platings. And I don't think it's something I want to do passively. I would like to keep it on demand, I think. But yeah, I want to have a dedicated processing array for that. This still obviously needs the compressors in it though. But I was holding off on making like EV ones, since they can't do the higher tier of platings. So now that we have access to the ZPM, I'm going to make at least a couple of these just for now. Now that we have wetwares as well, these are getting cheaper. Still requires quite a bit of HSSE, so they're not cheap. But yeah, we can start with maybe 4 or something like that. Let's see if we can make 4. Yeah, we can make 4, and that's what, 91 HSSE, which isn't really that bad, to be honest. So let's start those, and then we'll hook that up here, and we can transfer all the heavy platings to this interface. And that also means we can get rid of this temporary compressor, which was doing the heavy platings before. So we can get rid of this and then move all the things over to the other one, and clean up the wires as well. There. And back when I set this up, this assembly line, I mentioned I was going to build more than one. That is still the plan. I just don't know how big I want to go. Like how many of these I want to have. Maybe I'll just build another one just to parallelize some of these crafts. Because when you're doing like motors and things like that and pistons, it can take a while, especially if you have to craft more than one. But yeah, the first one finished here. This should also be a quest for us. And then we'll put in our recipes in the new processing array. Okay, so that quest unlocked the next tier of heavy plating, which is the Draconium, used for the tier 7 microminer. And this is a huge step up now. We have a lot of things we have to do before we send this. First of all, it takes the large microverse projector, which is the last version of the multi-block. This thing is huge. It also is going to take a lot of draconic crafting. If we just check out the recipe for the tier 7 here, yeah, this thing's a beast. So it takes a bunch of assembly line recipes. We also have to make the neural processing units, which we're not getting yet. And there's some particle generator or energy core stabilizers, and this requires fusion crafting, which we haven't set up yet. It also requires empowered, which we still haven't set up yet. This is also combination crafting. And then there's I think the guiding system we can make, supercharged lasers we can make. These warp engines though are a bunch of things we haven't seen before. Like this is our new flux electrum stuff. Glowstone elevation unit. This I think we can do this now, but yeah, we have to set that up. And then there's dislocators, so we have to automate this. Dark solarium, we haven't seen this before. So dark solarium is in the blast furnace with tritium, solarium and dark steel. And tritium comes from deuterium, and I don't think we have a source of deuterium yet. That might have to involve lunar mining. That's a whole other process before we can get that. Let's see what else is there here we've missed. This Ender energy manipulator is more fusion crafting, which is Draconic Cores, and we haven't done that yet. That's more empowered things. So man, there's so many things to do before we can even look at this. But yeah, this tier 7 will get us access to more dragon eggs, dragon hearts, dragon layer data. Like, where do we even begin here? I have no idea. I guess we'll follow the quests then, since that's seemed to work in the past. So I guess now let's just take this one by one and we'll craft the combination crafter and the pedestals and get this set up for empowered automation. So this is packaging component crafting core. We can do all this. Ender star. Yeah, we can make this no problem. I also expanded the molecular assembler tree as I was running out of interface slots as well, so we have two nearly the same size. Oh, the recipe for the pedestals actually takes red steel. And I don't think we have red steel yet, do we? We have the dust. I don't assume we can smelt this though. Red steel ingot. Yeah, it's a blast furnace recipe. Alright, well I guess we got another blast furnace to set up before we can get these pedestals. Honestly, I'm having a hard time like trying to figure out where I want to put these blast furnaces. It doesn't actually need to be like really high tier coils. We can do it in the nichrome ones. But we've kind of run out of space here, so maybe I'll just put it on the end there. Yeah, let's just set up more on the end. Alright, so I set up 3 more blast furnaces on the end of this row. We have one for red steel, which is the one we need, and also I set up blue steel since we need it later down the line anyway. And we're making the dusts for something or other, like luminescence or one of those dusts that are down there. We need blue steel dust, so this is just smelting it into the ingot and giving us access to this later on. And I've set the thresholds quite low on these, just at 64 for now, since they're pretty quick and we're not going to need loads of it. But yeah, that's that taken care of. Let's try and make those pedestals now. So that's the package crafter finish. That should also be a quest as well. And I suppose we can set up automation here in our package X crafting area. I guess this is now. So for this we'll need at least 4 pedestals. I don't think there's really much point in going above that. And then we can put these all around this crafter. And similar to these crafting tables, the X version, this package X crafting version, makes it so easy to automate. I believe you can just put like an unpackager next to this and have it like auto input and output from the network. So I think we can lay it out something like this. We don't even have to connect these to anything. And then power these. I could be wrong on that, but I'm sure I've seen it like this. And then I think we'll use a unpackager as well. So I'll put that maybe just next to this. And then a packager in the corner. And wait, does this power this through this block? No, okay, so I have to run a separate energy for this. There, so now we have to set up our recipes. So the ones we want to do is obviously all the empowered. So it looks like there's going to be 6 in total. One of these is the seeds, we don't need this. So diamantine, Palus, Void Crystal, Restonia, Emeradic, Inori, and yeah, that's us. And actually, this is the first time I've checked out these recipes, so maybe there's some surprises in here. And the first thing I've spotted here is these cells. We're going to have to set up some sort of canner for these. So we can use the fluid tank. Oh man, are we going to need a fluid tank for each one? Alright, this is a bigger project than I thought. We're also going to need sapphires, which we haven't made yet. And we can only get these from the implosion compressor. So we have to set up one of these as well. Which means we need TNT. And for that we need gel toluene. Oh boy. Black quartz, I don't think we have this yet. I guess we're also going to need the middle block as well, which is the atomic reconstructor. And right now we have this for some passive processes, but I think I'll set up another one for on demand to turn blocks into like other blocks. So actually, maybe let's just start with that. Let's just start with the atomic reconstructor to give us our basic actually additions blocks. And then we'll come back to this combination crafting. Alright, so it's now some time later. I had to step away for a bit. And I also set this up for the atomic reconstructor. This is more or less the same setup I used in Enigmatica. So we're using an AE subnet here. Basically I have patterns for each of the 6 blocks. So the Emeratic, Palus, Inori, Diamantine, Redstonia and Void Crystal. So when we request items from AE2, this interface will push it into the storage crate. And then I have a storage bus to read contents. And then an import bus on the same subnet. And this will import it into this formation plane, which drops it as item entities. And then the atomic reconstructor just constantly pulses here. We may have to speed this up eventually, but it does use power every pulse, so it's an okay speed for now. And then I'm using the range collector from Actually Additions filtered for each of the blocks. The items then from the range collector go into an interface which is connected to the mainnet, and this is just so that it can complete the craft. Because if I was to put these items from the range collector straight into this drawer network, I believe the item wouldn't be marked as complete as it didn't pass back through an interface since we're doing an on-demand craft. At least that's the way I understand it. And then, yeah, we have this storage bus here on this drawer controller to store the block forms of each of the empowered items. And this is on the main network. So yeah, this grabs the connection from the main line and it's separated by this quartz fiber here. So it never actually touches this subnet. So I can demonstrate this by requesting some Redstonia. So if we request the blocks, this is going to drop 8 blocks on the floor. The reconstructor will blast them and then the range collector picks them up. So yeah, this is pretty fast as is. So I think this will do us for the Actually Additions blocks. The next part of these recipes is these fluid cells. So we're going to have to get some way of getting these different fluids. So water, carbon, helium, sulfuric acid, nitrogen and argon into cells, and these cells are just from extruding iron plates. So I'm not sure if we should do this passively or on demand, like for the cells I mean. The filled cells we can probably do on demand since the canners from gregtech are really fast, and we'll just have to supply fluid to those. I think most of these fluids though we already have in our system. The carbon though we may have to set up a fluid extractor for that. And maybe a furnace for the ingots since we're only getting dust. So we'll probably make carbon ingots and carbon fluid on demand or passively and then just fill the cell on demand. Helium, I don't know if we have helium yet. I guess we must have because we're centrifuging endstone dust, so we must have some helium. Sulfuric acid, we make that. And nitrogen dioxide, I don't know if we have excess of this. Actually, let's just check. No, it appears we don't have any of that, so that'll have to be produced somehow. And then argon, we have argon. So I'm going to set some things up and then I'll come back when I have something. Okay, I've added these few machines on the end of their IV tier. This is for making fluid cells or empty cells. This is just limited to 1 stack. I realised this probably didn't need to be on or passively, but it's done now. It's just some iron going into a compressor to make plates, which is buffered in a drawer. And then we have a extruder making empty cells, and that's going into another drawer with a fluid storage bus, or sorry, a normal storage bus. And then this tower of canners is for each of the fluids to fill the cells. So this one here we have water, which has an aqueous accumulator below there, and the rest of them are supplied by this fluid interface with ender fluid filters on here. As you can see though, we still don't have the nitrogen or the helium. I don't actually know what the situation is with the helium. We should have that. Oh right, yeah, we do have that. It's just we just need a fluid storage bus on there. Well, that's easy enough to fix. Yeah, we have plenty of the helium. This machine here on the end, this fluid extractor, is for making liquid carbon. and we're getting this from carbon ingots supplied by this interface. And then I added a separate furnace onto the end of our passive line here, just for smelting some carbon into its ingot form. And then the way I'm handling these recipes is I've given one its own interface. So this is for water, and I'm allowing input from output side and then just auto outputting back to the interface. So when we request the water cell, this will fill this with empty cells, and then it will output the filled cells back into the interface. So that now filled with helium that we connected that up. I think the rest of them have got fluid except for the nitrogen dioxide. And strangely enough, we're actually out of oxygen, so I'm going to have to do something about that. Maybe I'll just set up a centrifuge for air. Actually, I really don't know where it's all going though. Somehow we're leaking oxygen somewhere. I mean, this cryo distillation tower is producing it, so maybe we can just overclock this, since this gives other byproducts that we can use. So maybe we'll just add another freezer with the atmosphere collector on there, since this doesn't have technically 100% uptime. And like, yeah, we have plenty of nitrogen. It's just the oxygen. I don't know really where it's going. I should really search places, because I know in the past I have been dumping oxygen. Like, for example, here, even we're trashing oxygen here, which is a bit silly at this stage. And maybe there's some sort of loop which is importing it into a trash can. I hope not. I'm going to have a look here just to make sure there's not. Okay, I had a little look around the base. I removed 1 or 2 trash cans for fluids. I can't really see anything else, so I think our solution is just to overclock the vacuum freezer, or maybe add another. We are making nitrogen dioxide somewhere, we're just not exposing it to our ME network, and I really don't know where it is. Like, that's the problem with having all of these machines. But yeah, eventually once we get to Creative Tank, like, all of these liquid processing things will be irrelevant, and we can tear them down at that point. But until then, yeah, I'm gonna have to find out where we make nitrogen dioxide. It's somewhere over here. Oh, I found it. It's in this one here to make the nitric acid. So I think what I'll do is just put a fluid storage bus on there, directly on the machine, to extract only, and we'll set it as high priority. I don't really think we'll need that much of this stuff, but we do need it, so we'll just nab it from here for now. And yeah, this is going to fill the input buffer of this machine, which it is, and now all of these should be full. So we should be able to request all of our cells. In fact, let's just do that just as a sanity check. So water, obviously we know that should work. Yeah, water works, which means everything else should work, as long as I've got everything configured correctly. Let's just do 10 of each, and then we've just got the last step, and I don't think we're missing anything from the last step. So yeah, all of those cells are okay. So now let's go through and just make sure we have all of these components. So Crystalline we have automated, and therefore Crystalline components we also have automated. Endostars, we have those. So that is that one done. The argon, we have uranium. We have the ultimate components, we have that. Sulfuric acid, we don't have this yet, but we should have everything else for this one. The helium one, we don't have apatite. We have everything else. This one here, we don't have black quartz, so we'll pin that. And the water one, we don't have sapphire, but we have everything else. So that leaves the sapphire, the black quartz, the apatite, and the almandine. And 3 or 4 of these have to be done in the implosion compressor, which is going to take TNT automation. And this is also a multi-block structure. This is a 3x3. So we have to feed this both dust and TNT, and it'll give us the gem back. So this thing I want to probably set up just to do on demand. It is 1 second per recipe, so yeah. We'll set up automatic TNT, and then we'll feed it the dusts on demand. So let's first of all actually build one of these things. It's tier 3 circuits. Oh yeah, that's really cheap. I think we actually missed this quest way back. It's right at the start of the late game section. Okay, so I crafted all the components we need for our implosion compressor, and I think we'll set it down on our HV line. This doesn't need to be particularly fast. I'm just going to build it probably right here. Alright, so that's built. Now we have to automate TNT. So for TNT we need sulfuric acid plus gelled toluene, and we should already be getting toluene from this distillation tower, or that distillation tower. In one of these tanks is toluene. Propene, butadiene, benzene. Aha, here we go, toluene. We have quite a bit backed up here. I don't know if this will be enough or what, if we'll have to make more. So this process doesn't have to be particularly fast, so we're just going to have one fluid solidifier with the ball mold to make gelled toluene, and we'll just do it at EV. So this is giving us our gelled toluene. Do we want to buffer this? There is only one use, but I'm not sure if our sulfuric acid will be able to keep up. We have multiple producers of sulfuric acid, but there's not really any other use for toluene other than to, well, burn it or turn it into gelled toluene. All the toluene will be going into gelled toluene, so I think I will buffer this into at least a drawer. We can auto output this to the side and lock this as well, and then we'll import this into our chemical reactor. And then we also have to get sulfuric acid in here, so I've just put a conveyor on here to import this, and then we need another fluid interface. I've went through so many interfaces today. There's a fluid interface. We'll need another pump as well for sulfuric acid. Alright, and that gives us TNT. Quite slow because, as I suspected, our sulfuric acid isn't the best. But we can storage bus this. And is there any other use for TNT other than to... No. So I think all of it is just going to go into the implosion compressor. So that means we can just put a interface next to this on the input bus. We put this here and then hook up TNT here. Actually, we're going to have to limited item filter this because there's going to be two inputs for this. So we're actually going to have to convert this to a big interface. And we can put this above and then conduit in with a limited item filter for just 64 TNT. Or actually, on second thought, since we're doing all this on demand, we can just include TNT in the recipe and it'll put it in like for us. So if we just put this here and then put our patterns in this one, yeah, I think that's a better way of doing it. So we can give this a name, implosion compressor. We can put this here and then just item conduit from the output back into the input. So now let's try and request, I don't know, just 10 of these just to... Oh, we don't have the dust. Oh, right, we're not processing this. So do we want to send this all the way through the ore processing? I mean, I guess so. I suppose this comes from a microminer somewhere. Yeah, tier 3. So let's go and add this to our ore processing just so that we have the dust. Alright, let's try the other one first then. Let's try the sapphire. And even same with this, we can ore process this as well. What does this give us? Green sapphire, aluminium. Yeah, why not? Let's just send this through ore processing as well. And then apatite and black quartz, they're a little bit different. These just take the autoclave. So I can just put in recipes for these. I've got an autoclave for on-demand crafting. So let's try to order from the implosion compressor again. We'll just order 10. And yeah, it just grabs the TNT via the storage bus this time. And yeah, that's pretty quick, so yeah. That's that taken care of. And now we just have to have the recipes for the combination crafter, and then I think we're done. And these empowered blocks are used all over the place, like this particle generator, for example. This is used in the creative RF. It's used in the core stabilizer, which is in the tier 7. So we'll need some new recipe package holders. We can craft those. And then we can come over to our package encoder, load up these new recipe holders. And then I've got all 6 of these pinned here. And then I think if we just choose the combination crafting, yeah, we can just import this directly and it will do the rest for us. And it even knows the center block, so yeah, we don't have to mess with any filtering. Okay, I think I got it figured out here. The when I was putting in the recipes, I didn't switch them all to the combination version, so it wouldn't like import correctly. I think now it should work. So if we request the emiradic, you could see it places all the items in the correct spot and then auto outputs back to the ME system. Let's just try another one just for sanity's sake. Yep, that paylist worked. So I'm assuming all the rest of them worked since they're all in the same setting now. And yeah, with that, I believe we can now make Draconic Cores. Let's see what the recipe is for this. Tungsten carbide, draconium ingots, and empowered payless. There's one Draconic Core, our first of many, and the quest. And yeah, this now leads into fusion injectors, which is all of the Draconic crafting. So I think that's going to be our next steps. But actually, wait, gated by europium ingot? Oh, we need europium, just even for basic? Okay, well in that case then, we're going to have to get into fusion reacting. So I thought we could put this off a little bit longer, but actually we're going to have to do the fusion reactor. So probably we'll do that next episode even. So yeah, I guess next time it'll be fusion reacting. I'm going to do a bit more cleanup and some more optimizations in between episodes again. Maybe sort out the oxygen situation and probably upgrade sulfuric acid. But yeah, I think this is where we're going to leave it. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.